This is RICKY, the Android guy. Hey guys, welcome to our top 10 smartphones of 2016. Now, it was a very interesting road coming here, and I really wanted to make sure that I gave it till all the way till the end of December to really award the top 10 best smartphones. Now, this is my list. I will say that this is my list, and I'll give the reasons why each of these phones made it onto the list. But please let me know your list in the comment section down below. What is your top 5 maybe, or even top 10 if you want to go the full amount, best smartphones of 2016. Let's begin with a late entry from a company that really impressed us, and honestly we hope to get a phone from them soon to really test it through the paces. But first one is from LeEco. Now LeEco is a newer company. This one is the Le S3. For the price point, it was a better value than their Pro model, even though I would prefer the Pro model. For the price point of being on sale at $250, this is what you get. Snapdragon 652, which is better than some of these other Snapdragons that you'll see around the 9 and 8 price marks. But it has 32 gigs of storage, 3 gigs of RAM, 4 gigs of RAM would have got it higher on this list. 3000 milliamp battery. It is the only phone around this price range that gives you Quick Charge 3.0. That's very impressive for this price point. To get Quick Charge 3.0, have fast charging is amazing to have. You also have a 16 megapixel and 8 megapixel camera. Again, one of the only phones in this price range to actually have 4K video recording. That is very impressive, again, at this price point. You also have IR Blaster, something that, man, I wish every phone on this list would have. And the full 1080p display with a 5.5 inch screen, so phablet sized phone with all the trimmings for $250. If you are looking for a phone in this price range, this should definitely be one of your top considerations. Another one would be, though, number 9. Number 9 is the Moto G4 Plus. Now with this phone, it has a lot of great qualities. It went for an insane sale this holiday season at $230. Normal price is $300, and this is what you get for that price point. For that price point, you get 64 gigs of storage, the slower Snapdragon 617, but 4 gigs of RAM. You have 3000 milliamp battery with turbo power charging, which is pretty good. In 15 minutes, you do get a quick charge. After that, it's not as... Everyone seems to have their own charging name this year. So you'll see that a lot. You'll see like Qualcomm, you'll see turbo power, you'll see fast, you'll see dash, all these different types of charging. As long as you have a form of fast charging, you're good. And this has that. It has a 16 megapixel rear camera and a 5 megapixel front camera. The reason why it ranks a little bit higher is with Motorola, it's been around longer. You have a lot of support. You also have a lot of updates that come to it very quickly, and they have a long-standing term of that. So the G series has always been a great series since its inception, and this year with the G4 Plus, it was probably the best version yet. Number 8 is going to be the Honor 8. Now the Honor 8 is a really great smartphone from Huawei, and it really came out in a time when most people expected a lot of things from Huawei in terms of a high-end phone like the Mate series and the P series, but really the Honor series had to make the list just because of its price point and value for that price point. It is definitely considered some of the best smartphone at $400. It was on sale for $350 this holiday season. And the first thing is their processor. Their processor is a Kirin, which is different from most. Out of all the processors, they're the only ones that use it. I believe it's Huawei's own processor company, or at least the one they work with most often in terms of having a in-house processor more exclusive to them. And so it's an octa-core processor, so you do have to keep that in mind. It uses a big little architecture though. 64 gigs of storage, 4 gigs of RAM, 3000 milliamp battery with fast charge. It has the same dual 12 megapixel camera that their higher end phone earlier this year, the P9 had, P9 had, so it still has that on here. Again, another phone with 4K video recording at this price point. 12 megapixel rear camera, 8 megapixel front camera, and it's one of the only phones that's a 5.2-inch screen at 1080p display. Now, at a 5.2, I really don't see the need for quad HD. 5-inch, I think around that, 1080p is fine. When you start to get to the 5.5, though, is when I would say you want quad for really the fact that you can't see any pixels. With this, it's a really great phone, and for the price point, it's one of the best ones out there. Probably the best looking one out there, for sure. Now, again, in this 400 price point, it was very competitive, and I did not mean for the Honor 8 to get number 8, and for number 7 to be the Axon 7, but that's how it turned out. So ZTE Axon 7, this, if I were to get any phone in the $400 price point or $400 price range, it would be the ZTE Axon 7. For me, this is kind of like what HTC should have been in terms of this year if they wanted to go with the same kind of style. And really, this is like an evolved version of HTC's heyday phones. And it takes the best of everything out there and puts it at a $400 price point. If you are looking for a $400 price point phone and sound is the main thing you're looking for, this should definitely be your top contender. Now, the Honor 8 would have a better camera than this one, but overall. However, this one has a 20 megapixel camera with an 8 megapixel front camera. Really great when it comes to that. The 20 megapixel camera is going to give you bigger photos, so if you're cropping, this is the better one to go with. In low light though, the Honor does a little bit better. But overall with this one, you have a lot going for it. First of all, you have a way faster processor. The Snapdragon 820 processor, the processor that was on the Galaxy S7, the Note 7, a lot of high-end phones from the LG V10 V20. A lot of these phones had this processor, and this has it at a $400 price point. You also have 64 gigs of storage. You have 4 gigs of RAM, a 3250 battery with Quick Charge 3.0. Again, that's the second fastest form of charging, so really good with Quick Charge 3.0. You have, again, rear camera, 20 megapixel, 8 megapixel front camera with, again, 4K recording. You can pretty much guess everything at this point will have 4K recording, so I'll stop mentioning that part. It is one of the only phones in this price point, though, that has a Quad HD display. I believe actually the only one at this price point that has a Quad HD display. So you really get a lot sharper screen than the others. But not only that, you have Gorilla Glass 4. Again, something you don't typically get at this price point. And finally, dual front-facing speakers. Now, let me give you an idea about this. These speakers and the headphone jack have a louder output than every other smartphone on this list. That includes number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Every other smartphone on this list, this has the best sound quality. So if you want sound, this will even eclipse ones that have built-in DACs that they're renowned for. This actually beats everything. So keep that in mind. All right, going on to number 6 is the LG V20. I'm sorry, LG fans, and unfortunately, you know, a lot of people have been asking me, hey, why didn't you review this device? Unfortunately, LG took us off the Christmas list, so to speak. We did not get the LG V20 in the studio, but honestly, from the time that I did have with it, when I used friends, tried certain things and all that stuff, it wasn't as impressive as LG has done in past years. LG did some mistakes this year, and I hope they really improve next year. We hear they're abandoning the, aluminum body design. They're going more for glass next year and waterproofing so they can have wireless charging and waterproofing. 2 big things they missed this year. But the LG V20, in my opinion, the biggest thing, they didn't make many improvements to the camera from the G5. They just really focused on the manual controls. And of course, I was a little upset at them for abandoning their modular design for people that had the G5 and they wanted to use those adapters to the V20. They unfortunately got left out. That being said, though, the LG V20 is a great phone for many reasons. First is that it does have, again, the main processor that was used by most flagships this year, the Snapdragon 820, 64 gigs of storage, 4 gigs of RAM, 3,200 milliamp battery with quick charge 3.0. It has a dual cameras, one 16 megapixel and one 8 megapixel wide angle one. So your default one is 16, and if you're using the wide angle one, it's 8. That's also why you don't want to use that 8 in low light, because it's not as good. It's also the f-stop, I forgot what it is, but it's not as good compared to that. And I'll talk about f-stop later when we get to some of the top phones. 5.7 quad HD display, 1440p. I really wish they would have brought back the OLED display, the P OLED display that they had in previous years. I think LG really needs to do that for their high-end flagship. And it does have an IR blaster. Again, one of the best parts about this phone. And I didn't put it on here, but it does have a removable battery. The only phone on this list, I believe even the Moto doesn't. I believe the only phone on this list that has a removable battery. So really stood out for that. Overall, though, if it would have had a better battery life, a better camera, it would have got higher up on this list. But also some of those features for this price point, 672 ranging all the way up to 829. Man, if you're on AT&T, you're paying more for this phone. But yeah, so it has a really high price point at some carriers, and that really hurts it compared to when you're getting a higher price point than an iPhone, than a Pixel, than a lot of other phones. It definitely hurt it. I think they should have either priced it lower or added more features, and you'll see that as a theme. If manufacturers would have done more, they would have got higher on this list. One that did get higher on this list because of matching the price point with what it gave is number 5, the OnePlus 3T. Now, if you watched our videos at the beginning of the year, especially our Android Weekly episodes, you know that I was really upset at OnePlus at the beginning of this year. They did their stupid invite system, and it was the same old thing, and a lot of people were pissed, but I was really pissed. Now, here's the thing. They changed that. They really changed that, so when it came to it, they really said, okay, we're done with the invite system, we're done with that, and they really came through. So kudos to OnePlus. You came a long way, and we hope to see your phones. We hope to get some review units eventually, but that's another story. The OnePlus 3T is honestly amazing. For starting at $440, and this is what you get for the 440. So keep in mind that the higher price one will even get you more storage. You get a Snapdragon 821 CPU. The not expandable part goes to the 64 gigs. Sorry for that confusion in the line. But 64 gigs, it's not expandable. Everything that doesn't say not expandable is expandable, so keep that in mind. This is the first phone that's not expandable on this list. Then you have 6 gigs of RAM. Now, although 6 gigs of RAM isn't really utilized as much on Android yet, it definitely future-proofs the phone. So as higher-end apps, that make partnerships with other manufacturers develop apps for 6 gigs of RAM next year, the OnePlus 3T is really going to be future-proof because it already has it. Has one of the biggest batteries on this list at 3,400 milliamp battery with the fastest form of charging, Dash Charge. Dash Charge is currently quicker than Quick Charge 3.0. However, Quick Charge 4.0 will probably beat it next year, of course. It's a playing game. But the biggest part about this too is if you're a selfie taker, this has a 16 megapixel rear camera and a 16 megapixel front face camera. Definitely stands out when it comes to that. And it has a 1080p display at a 5.5, which I don't like as much. However, I will say having a 1080p display instead of a 2K display or a Quad HD display does save you on battery life. But the biggest thing is it's an AMOLED screen. AMOLED screens or OLED screens in general are much better screens. Brighter, save better battery life, and have much better color. Now, the thing is you can tweak the screen if you download a third-party app, but like companies like Samsung that owns AMOLED, they basically allow you to make it realistic colors on the fly. So for those of you wondering, oh, well, it's not as realistic colors as IPS, they're actually truer colors than IPS can produce now if you have an app to allow it to be. So just so you know. But really overall, starting at a $440 price point with a faster processor than the V20, for instance, is why this got higher on the list than LG. Just giving you more for a better price point. This isn't the flagship killer that they used to say, but it's a damn good phone for a damn great price. And number 4 is a lot of people's number 1, actually. It is the iPhone 7 Plus. Now, obviously, there's going to be some comments, some trolls just started typing right now, but overall, you have to admit, people expected more from the iPhone 7. Let's be honest, you expected more from it this year. The biggest thing that I have to give Apple credit to is they did come through with the water resistance. It may not be IP68, but it's still IP67, and that is great overall. The fact that it's a water resistant phone really stands out. Really great overall for most people to just have that water resistance built into it. Now, them themselves are also going towards a glass design, either with the iPhone X this year, or if they can't produce that, then with the following year, because they want wireless charging on their phones as well. Now, this price point starts at $769. It has their processor, the A10 chip made by Samsung, if you didn't know. You have 32 gigs of storage, non-expandable. And again, that's why it's starting at $769, because it does go higher depending on how much storage you want. Kudos to Apple, though, for really doing the 32 gigs as well built in. That was a very great thing they did, and definitely helped out in the long run, I feel, for their sales. 3 gigs of RAM, 2,900 milliamp battery, and Apple has one of the best battery lives when not using the phone. When you do not use the phone, the battery life is amazing. However, when you do use it, that's when it starts to drain more quickly than other devices we review. Dual 12 megapixel camera. I think this is a good start to the way dual camera should be. Apple honestly implemented the best version of a dual camera. I was talking about this long ago. There's 3 ways you can do a dual camera. One is the way HTC did it to do the blur effect, which Apple now calls portrait mode. 2 is to do the way LG did it, one regular, one wide angle to get a wider shot, but it gives you a fisheye lens. And the way Apple did it, which is the best way, something that Olympus cameras did a long time ago for the point and shoots, and that is having a telephoto lens with it that allows you to go. Now, those cameras had up to 3x. This one only had 2x. Some of them even had 5x, but this one only has 2x. I think if a manufacturer does 3x next year, you're really going to see a huge difference. I love the idea of having real zoom, and that is something that I love. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, pinch to zoom is digital zoom, so all you're doing is stretching out the image. It's never good to do, to be honest. It's better to crop it later. But for this, it's just it's a start. 7 megapixel front-facing camera. They did a much better job with the front-facing camera than past years. Still not as good as some other ones on this list, but really stepped it up from the selfie quality. And again, their biggest hit is still only 1080p at a 5.5-inch screen. That, again, should be better. It is better when it comes to battery life, as I said earlier with the OnePlus, but because it doesn't have an OLED display, it's not saving as much as it could. So, that being said, we move on to number 3. And number 3, I rank this high because of the fact that although I didn't like it as much, a lot of people did, and they could definitely use it as their phone, and they would be happy with it. And that is Google's version of an iPhone, the Pixel XL. The Pixel XL ranked at number 3. It starts at the same price point of $769. Check out our review to really get the in-depth reason on why I didn't like it. In my opinion, this is not for power users. Overall, I think the latest version of Android, you should be thankful you don't have it, because the split screen is done horribly. I think both Samsung and LG did a much better job of split screen long before Google came along and messed it up with Android Nougat. So for those who are wondering, I would gladly not take their update. Marshmallow was a great OS, and Lollipop was one of the worst ones. It's like we're getting the Microsoft trend. One bad, one good, one bad. And with this, it does have a lot of great things going for it, and I am so excited. I think the Pixel XL2 next year could be one of the best smartphones of the year, possibly ranking even #1 next year. With this, though, you have a Snapdragon 821 CPU, 32 gigs of storage, not expandable. Again, at this price point for $769, that is what you get, but you can get higher price points to have more storage. You have 4 gigs of RAM. I believe the biggest battery on here, one of the biggest batteries on here, 3,450 milliamp battery with Quick Charge 3.0, so one of the fastest charges definitely we have here. 12 megapixel rear camera, 8 megapixel front camera, a 5.5 inch Quad HD AMOLED display with Gorilla Glass 4. This has so many great features. Really, what kept it from being a higher phone is at this price point, you do not have features that other manufacturers did. And it's because Google admittedly rushed the product. So they had wireless charging, not on here. They had water resistance, not on here. Google will never have expandable memory. So those of you ask, what about a Pixel or Nexus ever getting expandable memory? It will never happen. Google's against it. So that being said, at this price point, you literally see almost the exact same thing you saw on the OnePlus 3T, and that's why it didn't get higher in this price point, because for what you're getting, I personally would more recommend more people get the OnePlus 3T. However, Google does have on-site software support that you're touched into right here. It's the simplest version of Android, so it should have the least amount of problems on there with any apps crashing or anything along those lines. Overall, this is an amazing phone for the right user, but still there are better phones for everyday users. And the best smartphone for everyday users that would want the best that Android has to offer would be #2. And that is the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. Now, for those of you who know, I reviewed the Pixel. As soon as I was done with the review, I couldn't take it anymore, and I went back to the S7 Edge. And the reason why is this phone really does have a lot of things where it counts. Now, a lot of people said that, the Google Pixel was ranked the top camera of the year. I do not know how that is possible. They really just have a bad halo effect that they have still yet to fix. Google, it's almost 3 months later and you still have not fixed this halo effect. And that's unacceptable. It's like, okay, you're supposed to have the best support on this phone, but you don't. And so for that reason, for the overall smartphone, the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, you have a price range of $729 to $799, depending on the carrier and sales. Snapdragon 820 still, 32 gigs of storage with expandable memory, something that the Pixel XL, OnePlus 3T, and iPhone do not offer. You have 4 gigs of RAM, the biggest battery on here, 3,600 milliamp battery with fast adaptive charging. Fast adaptive charging is quicker than Quick Charge 2.0, not as quick as Quick Charge 3.0. You have a 12 dual pixel camera, that's 2 layers of megapixels. You have an f1.7 rear camera and f1.5 for 5 megapixel front camera. The reason why I say f1.7 is because it is the widest f, or the lowest f rather, to let the most light in. It's why the S7 Edge and other phones from Samsung were the best low light phones period this year. They were the best low light because of that. You can take a look at all of our photo comparisons, and when it comes to low light, color reproduction, and definitely detail as well, Samsung was the king of this year. No one beat Samsung when it came to detail in a photo, even with higher megapixels. This really is the best overall smartphone for those reasons, as well as a 5.5 inch Quad HD AMOLED display, again having the best of it. But the fact that Samsung on the 7.0 update allows you to actually put it down to 1080p if you want the better battery life, you have the option of having the better screen quality with less battery, or having the more battery with less quality screen. That is something that no other manufacturer offers to that degree as much as they do. OnePlus is starting to do it now with their updates, but it's something that Google should have built into Android, in my opinion, for their Pixel as well. IP68 water resistance, so it has the best water resistance out of any phone. And again, this was something mixing from the Pixel XL, the OnePlus 3T, the LG V20, and you have the best version of it here. And the biggest thing that I cannot live without, because it does not damage your battery if you use wireless charging. And Samsung has their own patent on fast wireless charging, and it uses both standards, Qi and PMA. So if you go to Starbucks, you can use their chargers, and if you buy a Samsung wireless charger, you can use their Qi charger. So you have all of that wrapped up into the best smartphone you can currently buy. And that brings us to number 1. Again, this is my top 10 list, and I really struggled on which one to make number 1, and you can probably guess which one did make it. And overall, when I took a look at this list, it is the top 10 smartphones of 2016. It is not the top 10 smartphones that you can currently buy in 2016. So with that being said, number 1, yes, it's the bomb. The Galaxy Note 7. The Galaxy Note 7 was, again, the best smartphone of 2016. It had the best battery life, the best camera quality, something that S7 Edges are getting towards now with software upgrades, but you can see the side-by-side comparison. The Note 7 did have way better quality than the S7 Edge when we compared them side-by-side on the camera. But it had the best of everything. You had a Snapdragon 820, which unfortunately wasn't the 821. However, you had 64 gigs of built-in storage with expandability, something most manufacturers did not give you in the top 5. They did not give you 64 and expandability. Some actually the lower ones did, but for the high end, this was pretty much the only manufacturer that gave you that. You also have 4 gigs of RAM, 3,500 milliamp battery, 12 dual pixel camera, 5 megapixel front camera, again with f.17. You had the best quality screen and the brightest screen actually. This screen goes up to 800 nits, which is brighter than any other smartphone. Most smartphones on their brightness display go around 400 to 500, so you had a much brighter screen on here. You had the only phone with Gorilla Glass 5, giving it the strongest glass there was available. You had an IP68 water resistance. You had fast charging again. You did have the S Pen, and something that most people don't remember now is the iris scanner. I really did grow to like the iris scanner. It was quicker especially when I had gloves on, and man, would I love that right now during the winter time when I have to keep taking my gloves off, or have ones that allow me to use my gloves, use my fingers to unlock my phone. So with the Note 7, overall, yes, it is the best smartphone of 2016. Yes, it was tragic what happened to it, and yes, you cannot buy this phone anymore. But in terms of design, style, quality, battery life, camera, speed, extras galore more than any other manufacturer gave, yes, the Note 7 was the best smartphone of 2016. Alright guys, I am sure some of you guys were probably surprised by that, some of you guys weren't. Let me know in the comment section down below, do you have a top 10 phone? And again, let me know what your list would be in the top 10. Thank you as always for watching. This has been RICKY, the Android Guy.